Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. The program will begin in 5 minutes. Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. The program will begin in 5 minutes. Ladies and gentlemen, the Kauffman Foundation's 9th Annual State of Entrepreneurship Address is beginning. Please welcome the President and CEO of the Kauffman Foundation, Wendy Gillis.
Thank you. It was really quiet there for a second. That was weird. Anyway, good morning. Good morning and welcome to the 9th Annual State of Entrepreneurship. We've gathered at a time of enormous potential, but also significant challenges, and that requires us to focus on listening to entrepreneurs, helping to raise their voice, and removing the barriers that block them from growing their firms, improving our communities, and enriching our nation. Listening to the stories is in the Kauffman Foundation's DNA because our own work and our very existence starts with a story. Like many veterans today, a man left the Navy to return home to his family. He started a job. He worked hard. He generated a lot of revenue for his company. But despite that, his boss treated him unfairly. So he decided to work for himself and started a company in his basement in a small city, borrowing from his house and some friends to get started. Sound familiar? He named the company after his middle name because he didn't want it to seem like a one-man shop. For more than 2 decades, the company grew, slowly at times, and definitely not on a straight line. But it became a legendary success. That man was Ewing Marion Kauffman, and he's the reason that we're here today and still listening. This week, we joined with several partners for 4 days of discussion, exploration, and rejuvenation with the common goal of learning with each other and collaborating to remove barriers. Yesterday was highlighted by a global policy workshop, drawing on learnings from the Global Entrepreneurship Network. Today, we're exploring the ever-evolving landscape of entrepreneurship, and many of us will be spending time with our representatives on Capitol Hill. Tonight, we're joining our colleagues at Revolution Ventures at a Rise of the Rest event for a bipartisan group of members of Congress to make a special announcement. Tomorrow and Friday, the Circular Board with Alice will hold its 2-day national summit, which the Kauffman Foundation is proud to sponsor. All these events provide new insights, perspectives, and collaborations which will fuel our activities throughout the year. They'll be needed because entrepreneurship rates are half of what they were a generation ago, at a time when new businesses account for nearly all net job creation. We're also seeing megatrends challenge the field, especially related to demographics, geography, and the relationship between technology and job growth. The U.S. population is increasingly diverse, educated, and older, yet our entrepreneurial population is not changing as fast. Entrepreneurship is increasingly an urban phenomenon, although it is also growing outside of just the largest cities and spreading to more mid-size metro areas. And technological advances have meant that revenue and jobs no longer scale in a near linear fashion. Fewer jobs are created as companies reach massive scale, yet opportunities are more widely available from tech platforms that lower barriers to entry. So what then do we do about all this? How do we take advantage of our long-standing heritage of entrepreneurship and extend it, as Mr. Kauffman hoped, to every interested American? We start by advancing a new economic model, one that infuses entrepreneurship into the economy more broadly than ever. It begins with creating entrepreneurial ecosystems, local cultures of entrepreneurship in communities across the country. And it can only succeed if we remove barriers in the way. At the Kauffman Foundation, as we announced at this event last year, our collective strategies are focused on achieving 0 barriers to startup. This approach represents a collaborative nationwide effort to identify large and small barriers to new business creation. It involves entrepreneurs, organizations that help entrepreneurs, researchers, and policymakers, and it will develop solutions to empower more entrepreneurs to pursue their dreams. Key to understanding barriers is research, which is a long-standing priority at the Kauffman Foundation. And to guide our efforts, we recently welcomed to the Foundation a new Director of Knowledge Creation and Research, Sammy Desai. Sammy, would you please stand to be recognized? The challenge now is to build on that research and knowledge to transform the landscape. And key to that, as I said, is listening to entrepreneurs who are the engines of our economy and the problem solvers who are creating our future of innovation. Our research must also become more actionable, based on what our country's makers, doers, and dreamers say that they need. Last summer, we held our first eShip Summit, bringing together more than 400 ecosystem builders from 48 states, Puerto Rico, the District of Columbia, and 9 countries. The ideas, insights, and solutions that emerged are available in a free digital playbook at Kauffman.org/playbook that we are continually improving based on input we're getting from entrepreneurs. Last fall, the Foundation launched a free online version of Kauffman Fast Track, a program that equips aspiring entrepreneurs with the business skills, tools, insights, and resources needed to start and grow successful firms. And in the past few weeks, we conducted a national survey of more than 2,000 entrepreneurs to further guide our actions. We're announcing the results of that survey today, and the full analysis will be on our website at Kauffman.org/SOE 2018. There's a lot of data to unpack, but I want to focus on 3 key highlights. First, there's optimism among entrepreneurs about business success, with many rating their own firm's performance in the past year positively. That's true for 67% of all startup businesses under 5 years old, and even for 61% of first-year startups. Entrepreneurs are also optimistic about how they'll perform this year. In fact, 88% of startups believe that 2018 will be even better. Now, all of us who work with entrepreneurs recognize that optimism. It's what keeps every startup founder going through those tough days and those long nights. It's also why we need more entrepreneurs. We know from research that having more entrepreneurs in communities drives up wages, innovation, and living standards. We need entrepreneurs to be optimistic because they help improve the quality of life in our communities. Second, we heard from entrepreneurs about the barriers they face, many of which are technical. They report they have the greatest difficulty with setting up benefits for employees. Next most difficult are obtaining licenses, insuring the business, and paying business taxes. Notably, entrepreneurs don't feel like it's getting any easier to accomplish these tasks. In fact, it's about the same as it's always been. Entrepreneurs are not looking for an easy way out, but they do want the government to spend more time supporting business owners and to prioritize startups. Nearly 80% of startups say that the government favors larger corporations over businesses like theirs. Most entrepreneurs would also rather see the government focus its efforts on creating a more business-friendly environment instead of on other programs like government grants and funding. 51% of startups express this view, and 67% of older small businesses share it. Notably, many entrepreneurs did not turn to the government for assistance in opening their businesses. Majorities, including 64% of startups, did not apply for government grants or funding. Finally, we heard from entrepreneurs about the importance of networks in building the successful foundation of any business. Nearly all entrepreneurs had the support of their family and friends. That's true for 81% of startups. There's also an extensive network of business owners to whom these entrepreneurs can turn, but here's where startups are at a disadvantage. About 1 in 5 startups have only 1 or no business owners to turn to, while over half of older businesses have more than 5 entrepreneurs in their network. These highlights are just the top of a much richer vein of data, which we'll be exploring and analyzing in the coming months. That data and all of our research and listening will inform our efforts to spread entrepreneurial ecosystems more uniformly throughout the nation. To understand the importance of nurturing those ecosystems, consider Edie, an entrepreneur from Ada, Minnesota, who runs one of the few non-agricultural manufacturing businesses in that county. It's an online business, but she initially had only dial-up internet. She was getting more requests for her product than she or her post office could handle. She was beaten down, and she was ready to quit. Then she decided to drive an hour to Fargo, North Dakota, to attend a meeting of 1 Million Cups, the weekly meetup that the Kauffman Foundation started in Kansas City 5 years ago and is now in more than 160 communities. She met people like her. She learned. She made connections. She problem solved. Today, her products are sold in 76 countries and have been featured on the popular TV series Game of Thrones. Helping entrepreneurial ecosystems thrive is essential to generating new business and job growth, and removing barriers that get in the way is vital. To tell you more about how we are expanding our work to energize entrepreneurship, I'm pleased to turn the podium over to the Kauffman Foundation's Vice President of Entrepreneurship and my colleague, Victor Huang. Thank you.
So we're going to have some fun. But before we get there, before I talk about breaking down barriers for entrepreneurship and before we activate you and engage you, I want to talk about an even more fundamental concept, what it means to be an entrepreneur. Because we've been listening to communities across the country over the past year, and we've learned that many people starting businesses don't see themselves as entrepreneurs. That might sound surprising, but for many store owners on Main Street, the word entrepreneur is reserved for stars like Elon Musk or Mark Zuckerberg, world-renowned billionaires. The vast majority of entrepreneurs, like Mr. Kauffman back in 1950, those who are creating the new jobs in America, start small. They're addressing needs in local communities by pursuing passions, following dreams, and creating their own destinies. They're the little guys. Those are the people we're fighting to remove barriers for. Those are the people who deserve our best tools for entrepreneurship. Those are the people who are creating the new American dream. Now I'd like you to hear directly from a few of them.
I grew up on a corn and soybean farm in northern Indiana.
Growing up in the inner city, you always have a desire to want to do better.
There wasn't this adamant, you're going to school. In fact, it was the opposite. My sister and I were told we're girls, we're going to get married, and we're going to have kids.
We just did not have the financial stability for me to go off to college.
I knew that if I was ever going to succeed in a big way in life, I was going to have to do it on my own. I was going to have to start a company.
I didn't have money. I didn't have an education. I didn't have a bachelor's degree. I was not a chemist, but I had a problem and I had a purpose.
I started out as a dock foreman in Buffalo, New York, working the midnight shift, and I worked my way up to terminal manager. One day, one of the VPs from Newark tells me, "I'm sorry, Jim, we gotta let you go, and good luck to you."
I'd been a stay-at-home mom for 13 years, but I went through a divorce. My house was foreclosed on. I watched them take my car away, and I was a mom of 3 kids with no, car.
I took the risk, and most of my friends said, "What are you, nuts? What do you know about business?"
I spent 22 years in the Army, and before I left the military, I knew that I wanted to be an entrepreneur.
I have no business background whatsoever, zero knowledge of the food industry. I was completing a master's in traditional Chinese medicine. I was a student and a first-time mom, but I knew what my daughter loved and I knew what I liked, and we wanted to share it with others.
I remember being a young girl, and my mom said to me one day, "You're going to walk in a room and it's going to make you feel uncomfortable because people won't look like you. They might not talk like you, but you have to go in that room and you have to take your seat."
I could have gone and gotten a sensible, 9-to-5 kind of job, but I just felt so passionate that this idea was going to work.
You don't have to overcomplicate it. Just knowing what you're doing and finding a better way.
I found myself actually growing the company. I found faith. I found so many things that I didn't know really that I had. I didn't know I'd be a good leader, and I'm a great leader.
That's been my overall intent and purpose to be an entrepreneur, is to be successful, give back to my community and to my country.
To start the day, I asked myself 3 questions. Am I guided by love? Am I serving a higher purpose? Am I helping to make the world a better place?
Fundamentally, what I believe in being an entrepreneur is we have to invent the future we want to live in.
I have wanted to prove that success is the best revenge, and not in a really malicious way, but just to say like, hey, you guys all thought I was crazy, and maybe I was, but it's okay, because crazy people are amazing, and they're the ones that get stuff done.
There's nothing like hearing the real voices of entrepreneurs. Even in these few stories, you can see the diversity of passions, backgrounds, and skills that are fueling innovation across our nation. Entrepreneurs are enhancing our communities, they're building bridges where racial, ethnic, and other divides have existed. They're getting things done. Our mission at the Kauffman Foundation is to remove barriers for these makers, doers, and dreamers. To do that, we are focused on 4 strategic pillars: individuals, communities, inclusion, and knowledge. First, we address the needs of individuals. We do that by helping entrepreneurs learn to be better entrepreneurs. In addition to the digital launch of Kauffman Fast Track, which Wendy mentioned, we're expanding 1 million cups to hundreds more communities this year. We're also creating an open digital learning platform where entrepreneurs can ask and answer questions, learn from one another, and make valuable connections. It's also where those who support entrepreneurs can better reach and help those entrepreneurs. Our goal is to create the easiest entryway for anyone starting a new business. Second, we address the needs of communities or ecosystems of entrepreneurs. The eShip Summit, which took place last summer and will take place again in July, is the starting point of our focus on communities. It's our community of practice. It generates innovative ideas about what works to grow entrepreneurial communities. The summit, in turn, has spawned a playbook which codifies emerging knowledge that is available free online for communities everywhere. We're also selecting several eShip communities across the country that will serve as sites for testing and learning. They, in turn, will generate participants' stories and new research to inform future eShip summits. Our strategy for communities is to provide frameworks that empower communities. These frameworks will guide change, encourage listening to diverse voices, produce roadmaps for action, offer leadership training, explore metrics to track progress, and ultimately impact rates of entrepreneurship. Third, we focus on increasing inclusion by closing gaps in the market. We work with partner grantees to level the playing field for entrepreneurs who've been left behind due to demographic, geographic, or socioeconomic barriers. As we just heard from entrepreneurs in this video, there is no single stereotype for an entrepreneur. Those entrepreneurs include people of color, women, those in the middle of the country and in rural areas, and those in areas lacking access to capital. In the last 3 years, the Kauffman Foundation has funded more than 30 organizations across the country working to help diverse entrepreneurs facing barriers. Many of those organizations are here today with us. We've also partnered with the Kauffman Fellows, a leadership development program for venture capitalists. The Kauffman Foundation started it years ago, and it has since spun out as its own entity, thriving in Silicon Valley. Through the Fellows, we provide scholarships for emerging investors in the middle of the country. The fourth tool for breaking down barriers is knowledge. For us, knowledge means translating ideas into action. That knowledge comes from many sources, from listening to entrepreneurs, from convening organizers, from policy engagement, and of course, from research. We take that knowledge and generate new experiments, new programs, and new methods to break down barriers for entrepreneurs. Through it all, we have to be humble. Kauffman's efforts alone won't be enough to turn around the long-term decline in entrepreneurship. Kauffman's wishes alone won't transform how our nation, our states, and our cities do economic development. To achieve that, we need you, our friends, partners, and collaborators. We need your best ideas at the table. We need the voices of entrepreneurs and those who support entrepreneurs to be heard, loud and clear. That's why later today, we're going to Capitol Hill. We're going to talk with representatives in Congress about policies to break down barriers and enhance entrepreneurship nationwide. We'll be joined by some of our grantees and entrepreneurs. We're taking another step to turn knowledge into action and get the voices of entrepreneurs in the room. So as part of this bigger effort, right now, we've got a little task for you. Right here in this room, we're going to use a simple little tool called Phone to Action. It gives each of us the chance to tell our elected officials, national, state, and local, about our support for entrepreneurship using the Zero Barriers hashtag. While we do that inside this room, simultaneously, there are people watching live streaming across the country. We're launching a national phone to action movement with people outside this room, asking them to share their stories as entrepreneurs. Our partners in this effort include a national network of Kauffman Foundation grantees and friends, key eShip Summit participants, our partner foundations, our friends at Alice, and others. We're especially pleased to be using Phone to Action because the Kauffman Foundation played a key role in helping Jeb Ori start the company. Prior to its founding, Jeb went on a bus trip organized by us that took Kansas City-based entrepreneurs to South by Southwest. While he was there, he won a competition that helped launch his company. Today, we're delighted that his company will help generate an introduction to policymakers that can help reduce barriers to entrepreneurs. So now it's time to get going. Even before we head to the Hill to meet with members of Congress, we can all take action right now. So I want you to take out your phones. We want policymakers at all levels to hear what we're doing, to know that our support for entrepreneurship is strong and widespread. So take out your phone right now. Okay? That's not a theory. It's for real. Take out your phone. The number 52886. Text the word champion to the number 52886. And what will happen is after you do that, you'll get a link that shows up as a text back. Open that link up. So you guys doing that? Yep. Yes? Okay. Getting the links? So the links, is it coming back? Yep. Okay. So the link comes back, and then open that link. So for those of you unfamiliar, you touch the link, and it pops up on your phone. And then what'll pop up is a place where you just put your name and your address and your email address. Now, I just did this last night. It's really easy. This takes just seconds to do this. Fill it out, and what it will do is pre-populate for you with a message that goes to your representatives, national, state, and local. And it will send out those pre-populated messages. You can also tweak the message if you want, but it goes out via email, by tweets, and Facebook. Just make sure you use the Zero Barriers hashtag if you're gonna, for the tweets and the Facebook messaging. So you guys doing it? Yes, I'm seeing most faces nod. Yes, okay. Very easy to do. And so you can see the pin starting to drop here. So as you guys are doing this, as people are doing it in this room, as people are doing it nationwide, you can see the pins drop. It's happening all throughout the country right now. We're at 212 advocates already. Wow, that's fast. They told me to aim for 150 and 200. We just blew right past that, which is fantastic. 1,300 messages out. Look at that. It's happening all over the country. I'm not seeing West Texas, and I'm not seeing Western South Dakota. So Rapid City, South Dakota, where are you? Wyoming. Cheyenne, Laramie, we're looking for you. Eastern Montana, but we're getting a lot of folks are still sleeping on the West Coast, so that's pretty good. But yeah, the middle of the country, I know it's like mountain time. Looks like we got a few pins in Denver even, so people are awake in mountain time. That's fantastic. Wow, 321. It's going up real fast. That's really cool. And you can see the tweets coming up. When you use the Zero Barriers hashtag, you see the Twitter stream on the right-hand side as well. It's moving very, very fast. That's cool. Well, and then let's see. Raise your hand if you've already done this now. And if you haven't, if you see someone not raising their hand, help them. Help the person next to you figure out how to use their text messaging app and their link on their phone. I know it's hard, but you just help the person next to you if they're having trouble with it. That's great. Well, that's great. Well, thank you so much. That's very exciting. And just so you know, this is the way we're going to start approaching entrepreneurship, because the voices of entrepreneurs are getting out there. They're starting to talk to the people that represent them and make sure that the voices get heard. So it's really exciting to see that happen. And we're going to keep this up both throughout the week, and we're going to take on similar ways to build the advocacy base across the country throughout the year. So thank you we're going to end that for now. But in just a short period of time, we've got people all across the country that are going to be meeting on Capitol Hill to talk with their representatives. We're going to be promoting this type of work throughout the week, and thousands of entrepreneurs connecting with policymakers. So it's vital that policymakers listen to entrepreneurs, because that's where the new jobs are. Collectively, and with the support of groups like the Center for American Entrepreneurship, we can put the voice and influence of entrepreneurs in the rooms where policies are made to reduce barriers to startups. These megatrends are changing the landscape, and entrepreneurs are on the front lines. We must hear all their voices. America has long relied on traditional economic development practices, which have focused on incentives to locate and grow companies in specific locations. We have to make a fundamental shift as a nation to enhancing ecosystems, which can locate and grow anywhere, in literally any neighborhood, any community, and in any part of the country. That will make entrepreneurship accessible to every interested American, which was Mr. Kaufman's dream. It'll energize the American economy like never before. So there's one more voice I'd like you to hear from this morning, and that's of Janice Omedeki, founder and CEO of the Mentor Method. Janice has a unique voice that draws on her background as a first-generation American, her understanding and value of supportive communities for entrepreneurship, and her commitment to ensuring that entrepreneurship is open to all. So please welcome Janice.
Victor, that was a great bio. Can you please email me a copy of that? That's going to be my next speaker submission. Hi, good morning, everyone. First, I just want to say thank you so much to the Kaufman Foundation for having me. This is such an honor, and I'm thrilled to be here. Hello, everybody watching live, no pressure. As Victor said, I'm Janice Omedeki, and I'm the CEO and founder of the Mentor Method. We use mentorship to make workplaces more inclusive. So I started the Mentor Method for a few reasons. The first being that I'm truly a byproduct of what happens when tech and mentorship come together. At a very young age, I saw my dad go in a 3-year span from working 3 part-time jobs to getting a security clearance and working in IT at the Pentagon. So I've always had this strong understanding of mentorship, and this all came from complete strangers who saw his potential, advocated for him, and helped him develop into the amazing professional he is today. Hey, Daddy. My background is in graphic design for Fortune 500 companies, and despite having certifications from MIT and the Harvard Extension School, oftentimes I was treated as the token that companies would use to just check off their diverse hiring box. And I was even more disappointed when it came to finding a mentor through corporate mentoring programs. Because oftentimes, I would be so excited, I would sign up, get there, and they would say, hey, well, we have these 2 women, or these 2 black people, or these 2 graphic designers. That's enough, we're done. And it's not enough. And so identifying that pain point, understanding it, and seeing the market, and knowing that I was capable of creating something better, that's really how the Mentor Method came to be. We've worked with some amazing companies, and through our algorithm and through our product, we've seen our users go on to create their own businesses, land new jobs, and recognize that they're worth investing in. When you hear my background, to me it almost sounds like fate. Well, yeah, of course she created the Mentor Method. She was born to do that. However, investors don't want fate. They want traction. They want numbers. They want a 10x return on their investment in 2 to 3 years. And we wouldn't create a real change in businesses if we weren't able to sustainably make the business case for creating more inclusive workplaces. The same thing can be said for entrepreneurship. I believe that only when all people, regardless of who they are and where they're from, have equity to opportunities, will we really see strong businesses created. And I want to double down on that and say sustainable businesses get created. We've all seen the studies, and we know that one of the biggest challenges for minority founders is access to capital. Trust me, I could literally stand here and talk to you about this all day until 5 p.m. But a problem that I want to address that I think sometimes gets neglected is community. Your community, your network of support and advisors can really make or break your business. I've asked business owners making $3 million a year how they got their first 10 customers. That's literally, I'm obsessed with that right now. How do you get to your first 10 customers? 90% of them said that it was through their network. 90% of them were also white men, which the foundation's survey results reflect as well. So my question to all of you that I would love for you to start thinking about is, how do we make sure that women and people of color are extended the same opportunity to get through that brutal 2 to 3 year drop-off point that so many entrepreneurs face? I think there are a few solutions, but the one I challenge you all to think of today is becoming the community around minority founders. If you identify with the founder, their mission, their business model, get in their corner. Advocate for them. Share your network of experts and advisors and potential customers. I think sometimes it's very easy to say, okay, well, you're too early, so let me wait, see your traction, then I'll come back next year when you've actually made something. I think that's absolutely ridiculous, going off script. I think that instead of waiting, coach and develop us to get us ready. I think that is mission critical and something that all of us are capable of doing, starting today. Thank you. I owe you a Starbucks card for that. Please find me afterwards. If you're protective of your network, why not have a sales call with them and do a practice run? See how well they do, coach them on what it'll require to make them successful in these meetings, and that will also make you comfortable in providing those introductions. I believe that this type of mentorship and development will create a tidal wave of change and innovation, and I am thrilled to be a part of it. I believe that not every great idea generator creating $1 billion company will be what society says they'll look like. I mean, case in point, right? Mentor Method, $314 million opportunity. I'm not in a hoodie. I do not work in a dark room coding all day. I mean, maybe I'm a little bit biased, but I'm actually pretty sociable, right? So, I joke, but it's true, and I think that when it comes to innovation, you can't just settle for checking boxes. You really need to step up and be a part of the movement. So in closing, I would just love to encourage everyone here today to make the commitment to support minority founders with potential, collaborate with the Kauffman Foundation, and help my dream of seeing a more inclusive entrepreneurship environment come true. Thank you.
On behalf of the Kauffman Foundation, thank you for attending this year's State of Entrepreneurship. Now go forth and break down barriers for all entrepreneurs.